So hi there and welcome to Boxing Media Hub, proudly in partnership with Falcon Contracting and Jam's Boxing Chat. And we're back for the Boxing Media Hub's Boxing Hour, featuring myself, Jam, and my main man from Cincinnati, Ohio, Mr. Serhan. How are you today, my brother?
Good about yourself across the Atlantic.
Yeah, man, we're good. We're good. Looking forward to the show, mate. We've got a special feature and a special guest coming up later, but we're just going to start with the weekend's cards as usual. So we'll go from Miss Sweet Caroline Dubois, who fought for the IBO and WBC lightweight titles against Myra Mineo. Did you get to watch that, and what did you think to it if you did?
All I have to say is Sweet Caroline.
She put
because
on a
that was impressive. That was impressive.
She dominated the fight, matey. Yeah, it was a pretty easy fight for her against a tough op. To be truthful,
yeah, very impressive. Yeah, start to finish, dominant.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to see her get the knockout, but you can't have it all, can you?
Right.
You can't have it all.
The opponent was very, very tough.
She was, yeah. Uruguayans usually are, mate. South Americans usually are. Definitely.
Yes.
Well, next up, we'll go for the British and Commonwealth super middleweight title, which was between Callum Simpson and Zach Shelley. What did you make to this one if you caught it, and what's your thoughts?
You told me about Simpson a little bit last week. I got a chance to catch some of it, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and to be honest, I was very disappointed in Zach Shelley. Zach Shelley is a very, very skillful fighter. He's a friend of the boss of the channel, Joel's. Like, he's an Essex boy himself, and we expected a lot more from him. Don't get me wrong, we all thought Simpson would win, but we thought Shelley would make it a ride or die. And it just wasn't. Shelley just didn't turn up, Serhan, to be honest.
Right. Kelly usually gives an honest effort.
Exactly. And he didn't this time. It was quite boring. SW Fight Hub's doing. Big up to yourself, Sam Walker. Thank you for coming through, sir. Right, so we'll leave that one there. Next up was the Battle of the Big Men. Andy Ruiz Jr. in a draw against Jarrell Big Baby Miller. For me, this was an absolute robbery because Jarrell Miller won that fight hands down. I don't see how they scored it a draw. I will never understand judges sometimes. What was your thoughts, mate? For me, it was a disgrace. Jarrell Miller won that fight, and I'm not a fan of Miller at all.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Miller either. The only thing I know is I was watching this fight riding a Ferris wheel, and I almost fell asleep riding it because the thing was boring because not two big guys like that barely were even throwing anything. But, like his own weird way, I was sort of glad because of Jarrell Miller's past drug cheat history, and we saw what he did, how he carried himself against Anthony Joshua. But as I said, I was glad that happened because neither guy really deserved anything because both guys were listless.
Yeah, the first 6 rounds they were fighting underwater for sure, but the second half of the fight, Miller did take over, and he was the more dominant fighter. And as much as I'm not a big Miller fan because of his drug past, 5 failed drugs test, the way he talks sometimes he can be disgraceful, but at the same time he won that fight. Andy Ruiz, I picked him to win. I wanted him to win. He didn't win, and he definitely didn't even get the draw. So it was a shame, and it's another slight on boxing judges for me, especially in America.
Well, Ruiz hasn't been in the ring in quite some time, and it showed. Actually, neither guy has, and the inactivity showed both ways. The fight was just a snooze fest, especially after round 5.
It wasn't the best. SW Fight Hub, Sammy's just said, Ruiz no passion left since the AJ rematch. Yeah, since he made all that money, mate. He pimped up that paper set and he don't want to know the game anymore. And that's what happened. He got rich and he stopped trying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was listless. He was listless in the Joshua rematch. He came in nearly 300 pounds and just did nothing.
Exactly. Didn't even try and get it going, did he? That's truthful. That's true.
Nope.
Okay, so we'll move on then. So this was a cracking fight. Martin Bakole, the Congolese banger, against Jared Big Baby Anderson, who's from your neck of the woods, of course. 5th round knockout for Bakole against Big Baby. I was very impressed with Bakole. Very underwhelmed by Jared Anderson. We called it at the Riyad Murhi watch-along, if you remember, Serhan. We were not impressed. We said he needs to do more. He didn't do more, and he got found out finally.
Yes.
So what's your thoughts? Can Anderson come back from... He's only 24 years old. Surely he can come again, but at what level?
Doubt it. I mean, he didn't lose. He got steamrolled. He got overwhelmed. And I think you can go one of 2 ways. You can pick yourself up and, go up or you can go backwards. The problem is the guy's been listless in his last 2 fights prior to this, and everything caught up to him. And this night against a very, very good fighter, Bacoli, who was rolling out, what was it, 10 straight wins for him?
Yeah, he's been on a roll, mate, since losing to Michael Hunter. And that's a rematch that might be on the cards now. Michael Hunter said he wants it over in the UK. So Michael Hunter the second, might want the rematch against Bacoli in the UK.
Makes all the sense right now. I mean, honestly, I think he gets Hunter this time. I haven't seen it. I was never impressed with Hunter at all. I would pick Bacoli in a heartbeat.
I do like Michael Hunter. I think he's probably the best American heavyweight at the moment, and that says it all about American heavyweights at the moment, doesn't it?
Yes, the only thing that's going for him is the bloodlines, because his dad was a respectable heavyweight back in the early to mid 90s.
Yeah, certainly, Serhan, certainly. But Michael Hunter, though, I have got a lot of respect for him. He always tries. He never quits. He always tries to fight to the death, and that you've got to give respect for. Jared Anderson folded like a cheap deck chair.
Oh, he did.
He did. Tell you what, that could be a fight down the line. Jared Anderson against him, you know what I mean? Imagine that down the line. Michael Hunter, Jared Anderson, they're 2 similar level fighters.
Makes sense.
And I think maybe Anderson loses that too, to be quite honest.
I think so.
Yeah, definitely. Very disappointing, wasn't he? Let's be honest. I know he's a native of Ohio. It was very disappointing.
He was.
Yeah, definitely. Right, so we move on then. So we've got David Morrell Jr., who beat Radihevo Kaladzic. He beat him on points. I don't know what you made of this. I don't know. I wasn't. Everyone says how great David Morrell is. I wasn't that impressed, to be quite honest with you. He was good, but was it impressive to you?
I'll put it like this. He was better against Kaladzic than David Benavidez was against Alexander Gvozdyk. But let's get that part out of the way. Maybe the biggest mistake I think he made, being David Morrell, his punch variety was terrible. He was basically headhunting against a guy who has a very, very stern chin. Remember, this guy's only been knocked out by Utter Better Beef, which, everyone who fights Utter Better Beef gets knocked out.
Yeah.
If he would have invested in some body shots, I think he might have been able to get him out of there. But as I said, yeah, I agree. He carried him the distance because he lacked the adequate punch variety to be able to get the knockout. I think he tried too hard to impress, but he did win at least 10 rounds. So he was very, very good in that aspect of it. But I said maybe it felt like he was a little stuck in mud because, hard to say where he was, could go forward or backwards in that division. But it came down to, as you said, as we said, the lack of punch variety, and that was the difference in the end.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think, Serhan, mate. Yeah, like he done a very good job. He won it very handily, but it was just, I expect so much more because he's such a talent. You know what I mean? I expect extra level from him, and it just didn't materialise. But it doesn't mean it won't in the next fight. So David Morrell got the win. Big up to him. He carries on onwards and upwards. So next we had Andy Cruz against Antonio Moran. This one was stopped in the round 7 TKO. What was your thoughts on this one?
I liked Cruz a lot in that fight. Very, very impressive.
Yeah, he's a very good boxer, isn't he? He's a very, very good boxer. Very good indeed. Right, the shock of the night was Jose Valenzuela. I called it. I'm not bragging, but I called it. I called it on every show I went on. I said Valenzuela is going to beat Pitbull. And he did beat Isaac Cruz, and he beat him comfortably for me. It was over points, over 10. What was your thoughts on this one?
I thought it would happen because I never was a fan of Cruz.
Yeah, I've never been a big Pitbull fan. My friend Neutral, who's joining us soon, he thought Pitbull was the one at 140. I just never seen it.
Nope.
Exactly. Right, so we'll move on then to the main event of that card, which was obviously Terence Bud Crawford against Israel Magramov. Now, Bud won it, and that's a fantastic win against a very good 154 operator from Uzbekistan, Israel Magramov. I was very unimpressed with both fighters. I don't think either of them gave enough for what they're supposed to be. Do you get what I mean by that? Bud won, which is fantastic, but they weren't good enough for me.
Yes, something was missing. But one thing, the difference was to add this for everyone out here, all the morons out here who thought it was a robbery. Bud landed the more showier punches. That was the difference.
Yeah, definitely. Bud definitely deserved to win in the end. I think I had it something like 10 rounds to 2, which everyone went mad at me about. But Magramov just didn't do enough.
I had an 8-4 Crawford.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not too far away, is it? Right.
No.
So we'll quickly speak about the Olympics. Just the two that I cared about, to be quite honest with you. Kelly Harrington winning the gold for Ireland against Wenlu Yang of China, the world number one. Did you get to catch that? And what was your thoughts on that?
Solid job by Harrington.
She was fantastic, wasn't she? Bless her. She won the gold. Absolute fantastic performance. Beat the world number one.
Yes.
And then we had the British lads, Lewis Richardson, who obviously lost in the semi-finals, which was heartbreaking to me. But he lost to Marco Alvarez of Mexico, who was a very good fighter. But for me, I had Richardson winning that 2-1. The judges went the opposite way and gave it to the Mexican, which is what happens at the Olympics. What was your thoughts on that one if you caught it?
Yeah, I thought Richardson was one of the ones I thought that would medal when everything was said and when the amateur started.
Yeah, well, he still gets a bronze. He just didn't get to the gold match.
Yeah,
he still gets
I
that
thought,
bronze. So.
Yeah, I thought he was going to at least get silver.
Yeah, I did as well, to be honest. I thought he might win the gold the way he was going because he looked fantastic. So it's a shame. It's a shame. Right, so we'll move on next then. So Bud versus Canelo is now not happening. Turki Al Sheikh has made it clear that this fight is not. He said he's no longer interested in Canelo. Not at all. He said, I've got no interest in that fight or him at all. What's your thoughts on that one, Mater?
There's a person talking to you right now that was never interested in this fight. I never understood the buzz for a fight that was basically 3 divisions apart, and where this accusation of everyone in the social media area of boxing, whatever, X, Facebook, or whatever, that's obsessed over a fight that had made next to no sense, 3 divisions apart. I never understood the hype. It started last year after Terrence Crawford beat Errol Spence. Why were people pushing for a fight that made next to no sense? There's no narrative for this, which I'm sort of glad now that he came out and said he wasn't interested. So I'm trying to figure out what the narrative is for this.
Yeah, I think it's just Turki Al Sheikh flashing his money, and he thought he could buy anyone, but he's realised he can't buy Tank Davis, he can't buy Canelo, because they make enough money without him, especially Canelo.
They don't
Canelo
need him.
Doesn't need anyone in boxing. He makes enough money on his own.
And Inoue was the same one.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, sorry, Inoue as well. Yeah, because he sells out 55,000 in Tokyo. So yeah, there's 3 of them that just don't need Turki Al Sheikh. And I think he got his back up a little bit, and that's why Turkey put out that post. And then he posted a poster of himself saying, the most important VIP in boxing is me, Turki Al Sheikh. Talk about self-promotion, you know what I mean?
I think
Mr. Neutral has said, preach Serhan, so he agrees exactly with what you were saying, my man. And he's going to be joining us in 2 minutes, so I can't wait to see you, Mr. Neutral. And Mr. Styles has said, bigs up Jams and Serhan. Big up to yourself, Mr. Styles, my brother. Appreciate you coming through all the way from Ontario, Canada.
Shout out
right,
to,
so the next
shout out
one
to Styles.
Then. Oh, sorry, sir.
No, I was giving Styles a shout out.
Oh, bless up, man. Thank you. Right, so next up, we got the Shakur and Loma beef in the crowd. What did you make to that? They were really going back and forth, and the security had to separate them at times.
That's the most action I've seen Shakur initiate in quite some time, and I've never seen Loma that angry. Never.
Loma literally said, come on, let's take it to the car park. He wanted to fight him in the car park. He said, come on, me and you in the car park now.
Yeah, I never seen Loma that angry.
By a few Ukrainians. That's exactly what he said. Come to the car park, we'll have it.
I've never seen Loma that angry at all because he's always calm and cool. Does like to trash talk commonly, but be that angry at someone, I have no idea what was done. But that's the most action I've seen Shakur initiate on someone in quite some time.
Yeah, 100%, mate, 100%. I don't think that fight's going to happen, though, because it looks like Shakur versus Williams Zepeda, doesn't it?
Yes.
So what do you think to that one? I think that's a good fight. I think that's a good, solid fight.
If there's one guy that's capable of beating Shakur, it's the style of a Williams Zepeda, a very aggressive, high-volume puncher who can basically keep Shakur on the defensive for the most part.
Then, Mr. Neutral, how are you, sir?
How are you doing, gentlemen?
I am good, matey. I am good. What's your thoughts on this one, quickly, Neutral? Before we get to the special topic, what's your thoughts on the Shakur-Williams Zepeda fight that apparently is going to happen?
Great fight if it happens. I'm still waiting on the Tank Shakur announcement myself because there's been chatter on Twitter that they've been talking the teams at the moment. So I wouldn't like to say who it's going to be automatically. Shakur mandatories. I don't know right now whether that if he smells a better fight with more money, then it's got to be Tank. If Tank's willing, Tank is not getting the Loma fight. A lot of people are saying he's going to fight a class C fighter next. So I don't believe that. I think it'll be a good top fight whoever he picks, but it's got to be one of the two.
Yeah, you'd have thought, you know what I mean? Because Shakur and Loma, like we were saying a minute ago, have been going at it in the crowd at the Bud Crawford fight. But that fight's not going to happen because Loma's already said he's taking a year off. That's why he's not fighting Tank, wasn't it? So that fight's not going to happen. Neither is the Shakur Loma fight. So I think that leaves Shaq and Zepeda for me. I think that's the more likely fight out of the two.
Yeah.
We'll
Big
see.
up you, by the way, Jams, for getting the Pitbull one great. Pitbull let me down, something awful.
He did.
But I have to say, 8-4, 9-3, 10-2, not in a million years. Crawford landed 11 more punches in the entire fight. That doesn't warrant 8-4 scorecards. 25% accuracy rate to 32% of Madrimov. It was closer than people think. I rewatched it, Jams, after doing the watch along. I
I've not
rewatched it
done
the
that
next
yet.
day.
I've not watched it back, you see. I'm still
And
going on my
I
original live
actually,
watch along.
yeah, I had it 115, 113 to Madrimov initially. I watched it back and I reversed that score to 115, 113 to Crawford. But the thing is, a lot of people were giving Crawford swing rounds, but he wasn't the champion. The champion always gets the swing rounds, and that's why a lot of people had it closer than maybe people think. So I don't know. But yeah, big up Terence Crawford, pound for pound, number one, 4-week division, 2 times undisputed. Only in
No
UAE
disputing
can
how good he is. There's no disputing how good he
exactly.
is.
You can't now. He's proven that he can take the heat at 154. There's a couple of routes he could go. He could go up to 160 for Janabek. We don't know. Janabek's struggling at the weight, but
Yeah.
he said
Well, he
in
fainted,
a
didn't
tweet
he?
that he can make 160, so that could be an option for him. But again, there's some great fights out there ready to be made, and
There is,
yeah.
matey, there is. She's going to get to Mr.
But the
Styles'
ace,
comment.
and I agree with Serhan. The A sides just do not need Tucky Al Sheikh's money. Sorry.
That's
Why
it.
give
Yeah,
up
it's
all
true,
them
mate.
concessions? Why give up the matchmaking rights? Why give up the PPV points? Why give up the gate? Just to take a smaller cut. It doesn't make sense.
That's
Crawford
pointless, mate.
Madrimov, Crawford Canelo fantasy fight. Serhan was completely correct in that.
Yeah, it's not happening, that one.
It's just a narrative people like to have on Canelo. At the end of the day, first it was Benavidez, now it's Crawford. Doesn't matter who Canelo fights, he's ducking somebody.
Yeah, it'll continue into the wee hours, that one will,
It
mate.
will.
Like, you'll hear
It
it on
will.
faces tonight. Canelo's ducking again. It's a load of bollocks, mate, to be quite honest.
Oh,
I have a lot to
Shakur's
say about.
really
I have a lot to
desperate
say
to
about
want
that at the end of the
to stay
show.
relevant, so he picks a fight with one of the nicest guys ever in Lomachenko. But Lomachenko wasn't nice that night. He was offering him to the car park, he was. The Zepeda fight seems more likely than the Loma fight, says Mr. Styles. Hawkwind has said, geezers. Bless up, Hawkwind. Thank you for joining. Mr. Styles said, bless up, neutral. Big up, neutral. Rahokam said,
Bless up,
evening,
Mr.
gents. Good evening
Styles.
to yourself. Glad I bunked off work early. We're glad too, Rah. Thank you for joining, mate, sir. Don't
Big up,
forget,
Ra.
why give up the easier opponents? Says Rahokam. Yeah, completely,
He's
mate, sir.
a closet Canelo hater, Ra. Take no notice.
That's it. That's it. He's the president of the Canelo Hate Club, isn't he?
He is, and a proud member and leader of that faction.
He said, I hope we still get the US versus Mexico. Right, so we're going to get to our special feature, which is why Mr. Neutral joined us today. It's the top 10 revenge KOs. So they've either drew or lost the first fight and came back with a knockout. So what we'll do, I've not done mine in any particular order. I've just done 10. I've not particularly made it like, number
I
one's
don't
the
think I
best
can
or the
name
most
10
important.
knockouts.
It's
I
hard
know a
to
few.
find. Jab It
I know a
Boxing
few.
said, evening, lads. Evening to yourself, Jabs. But I'll start with number 10. I went for Floyd Patterson when he KO'd Ingemar Johansson. And that was in the 5th round after being KO'd a year earlier in the 3rd round. So it was a huge fight. Ingemar Johansson was undefeated and Floyd Patterson stopped him. So that's my number 10, guys.
I
Serhan, what
agree.
was your number 10?
Fury or Wilder.
Fury Wilder. That's my
Yes.
number 1. That's my number 1.
Simply put, we know what happened in the first fight. Fury was robbed. Wilder only won 2 freaking rounds. Other rounds he were knocked down in. Of course, there's a garbage long count. The Wilder fans, the biggest idiots in the world, were claiming the long count that really wasn't.
The 11-second count.
Yeah, that wasn't really 11 seconds. He got up in time. The second fight, Fury just said, hell with it. I'm let my fist do the talking. He basically punked Wilder from start to finish. So bad to where Mark Breland basically threw in the towel. And basically, that was the end of Wilder because he was found out.
Yeah, he was never the same. He was never the same. Mr. Neutral, what was your number 10, mate, sir?
To be honest, that was one of the weakest fights for me out of my 10. But I can't name 10. I can name 10 revenge wins. But,
That's
not
okay.
necessarily...
You can just name the revenge wins, mate. That's all good. Don't have to be knockouts.
Yeah. I'd have to go with Joe Calzaghe, Kessler... Not Joe Calzaghe.
Carl Froch, Kessler.
Carl Froch and Kessler.
Yeah, he got it on UD, didn't he, in the second one in London after losing in Denmark.
That's right. Yeah, but it was the manner of the win in the for the revenge win that I give credit for. But that's my number 10.
Yeah, that's a good call, mate. I would have had that in there. That would have been my number 1, to be honest. Definitely. Number 9, I went for Jose Luis Castillo when he KO'd Diego Corrales. And that was in the 4th round after he'd lost the first one by TKO. I'm sure Serhan remembers that one. I've got something to say on that one.
Before I get to that one, the only reason why that wasn't higher was because Jose Luis Castillo missed weight. I get where you're coming from, but I'm not giving him credit for it because he was 2 pounds overweight and did it rather blatantly.
Okay, I didn't know that, to be honest. It was quite an early one.
You're sort of right though, because the first fight against Corrales, that was one of those all-time great give and take fights. Probably the greatest fight of its time. Now for my number 9, here it is the rematch between Marvin Hagler and Vito Antuofermo. The rematch of arguably the greatest that took place in '79. It was widely considered the worst decision of boxing history. So what does Antuofermo do? Because he knows Marvin Hagler was coming, he brings in the well-known cheat Panama Lewis in his corner.
Oh yeah, we all know about him.
Panama Lewis tried to manipulate the fight, accusing Hagler of headbutts because Vito Antuofermo was cut over both eyelids. Blood was gushing out. He was trying to force a technical draw because Hagler was just giving him the beating of his life. Then after the 4th round, Hagler just piled it on. The fight was stopped. But that was a big revenge for Hagler because the first fight against Antuofermo, he was viciously robbed.
Okay, thank you, Serhan. What's your number 9, Mr. Neutral?
I'll agree with you, Jams.
So you went for the Luis Castillo? Yeah.
The revenge win, yeah.
Okay, then. So it's my number 8. I went for Zab Judah when he KO'd Corey Spinks. That was in the 10th round after he'd lost the first one. It was his first loss. No, sorry. Hold on. Bear with me. It was in the 9th round after losing the first fight on points.
Let me remind you, he had him solved in the first fight. The problem was Zab Judah ran out of time because Spinks was holding on it for dear life in the first fight.
Yeah, it was all hugging. It was all hugging up, and it was a terrible fight. But Judah did get him out of there in a second, didn't he? So you got to give that to Zab.
Right.
So a good revenge win. It was a knockout, so we'll take it. What's your number 8, Mr. Serhan?
Evander Holyfield knocking out Michael Moore. The synopsis of this fight. Yeah,
I missed that one.
The synopsis of this fight. Their first fight in '94. There was a knockdown round where Holyfield knocked Moore down, but 2 judges scored the round even to give Moore the title. A round in which Holyfield floored Moore. 2 judges scored that round even. But we know that fight, of course, sparked the health issues with Evander Holyfield. His shoulder, then his heart. And of course, the next fight, Moore loses the title to Foreman, gets it back against Schultz. Holyfield was rolling after the Tyson fight. He wanted to collect the belts, so Moore had a belt. Holyfield used that chance to get revenge. Basically, knocked him down in the last 6, knocked him down 8 times. six times in the last 5 rounds. And the corner threw in the towel. Holyfield just beat the bejesus out of him.
Fair play. Fair play. Yeah, I missed that one off mine, to be honest. I actually remember the fight. I was only 11 years old, but I remember it. I watched it it was on live on Sky Sports back in it was like 2 a.m. back in the day.
Yes.
Mr. Neutral, what was yours? Number 8, mate. Doesn't have to
I'm
be a
gonna
knockout.
go
If you've just got revenge wins, any revenge win will do, even if it's points, it don't matter.
I'm going to go for Sugar Ray Leonard versus Roberto Duran, fight 2.
That's my number 2.
After
Retired him in
Duran,
the 8th round, didn't he?
yeah, after Duran's wonderful performance in fight 1, Sugar Ray Leonard come out in fight 2. Obviously, there was things said about wives and all the rest of it back then, and Sugar Ray Leonard gave a masterclass in how to mug somebody off in the ring. And he just walked out the ring in round 8, was it?
Yes. Round 8 finished him.
Yeah,
he just
so
retired.
he just walked out the
ring.
ring. No mass, I think was the saying.
Yeah, no more, doesn't it? I mean, no
No
more. Don't
more.
want no more.
No mass, and
Panamanian, wasn't he?
and walks out the ring. And you know, for revenge purposes, that's got to be up, on the list.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely Neutral, Mr. Neutral. I had that as my number 2, mate. I had that as my number 2. Just going to run through a couple of comments real quick because a few came in. We start with Ra Hokum. He said it has to be Lennox Hassim. That's on my list as well, so we'll get to that, mate. Ingo's Bingo. Javit Boxing has said Sergio Martinez versus Paul Williams too. Didn't even think of that one. Hand left step inside was brutal. I didn't even think of that one, to be honest. Jones Jr. versus Griffins. That's another one I didn't even think of. That was a cold knockout.
That's on mine.
Definitely brutal, so he's agreeing with Ra Hokum. Holyfield suffered heartburn, says Hokum.
Yeah, that was after the
possibly due to steroid use. So
I'm not even going there with that one. That's just an off the chain allegation without legitimate proof. Until you legitimately prove it to me, I'm not hearing it.
Yeah, definitely not against such a great. You know what I mean? Not against such a great. Right, so we're on to number 7. I went for Manny Pacquiao. I know this is I know this ain't the one. It doesn't matter. Manny Pacquiao when he beat Eric Morales. He obviously lost the first fight. He knocked him out in the 10th round in the second fight, but he lost the first fight, didn't he? It was his first defeat in the USA. So I went for Manny Pacquiao in this one. And he appears on my list a couple of times, does Pacquiao? 3 times, in truth.
Yeah, that fight had some bizarre circumstances around some what gloves to wear controversy that was just absolutely bizarre. But Manny Pacquiao said
his rounds 4 times, didn't he?
Something like that.
4 times.
Yeah. And then of course the rematch that Pacquiao can't basically say the hell with it. We'll get him in the ring and we'll obliterate him. He obliterated him twice more.
Yeah, he certainly did. But it was a cracking fight still. I still enjoy watching that one. But there's a couple more Manny Pacquiao ones that are coming on my list later as well. One of them, like I was going to say then, but I got the wrong one. One of them wasn't actually a rematch. It was a 4 fight. So I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, but we'll get to that later. But it was still, he'd lost 3, so it was a revenge, and he knocked him out Spark. We'll get to that one. So what's your number 7, Serhan?
Antonio Tarver over Roy Jones Jr. The first fight, it was because Roy Jones made the mistake from he went to won the heavyweight title, made the mistake coming back down to light heavyweight. Tarver was out for him. Tarver basically, and Jones had a strategic first fight, or you feel maybe Tarver let it slip away in the end. But the second fight was an infamous quote at the referee's instructions from Antonio Tarver. Have any excuses, Roy? Round 2, the left hand that floors Jones, and that's all she wrote for Jones's career.
Yeah, definitely. Mr. Neutral, what's yours? Your number 7.
Let me think. But Roy Jones Jr., Bernard Hopkins.
Okay.
Yeah, Hopkins won fight 1, and then Jones Jr. Roy got his revenge in fight 2. So that was, I remember that well. That was a good fight.
Excellent fighters, mate. I was a big Executioner fan back in the day. He was one of my favourites. I know he was a bit naughty at times. He could be a bit of a dick, but He was a classic fighter at times. You can't go
Yes.
wrong with a bit of Bernard. You know what I mean? Did you like him,
Yeah,
Serhan, over in the States? Like, what was the perception of
Yes.
Bernard Hopkins in the States?
exceptional fighter.
Exceptional middleweight.
Yeah, but did people
He's a
like
little
him
he
though?
was a
Like
little
his
weird.
character, I mean, like his
Yeah, a little
personality.
awkward with his awkward character that sort of rubbed people off the wrong way. But he
That's
was
what
one
I
of the
mean.
ones. No, he's one of those ones that wanted to be as outspoken as anyone else. Some of which we understand it, but as a fighter, yeah, he was one of the best, especially in the middleweight division, where he's probably top 5 in that weight class ever.
Yeah. Definitely. So we move on to number 6. We're getting through these a bit quick, lads. We're going to have half an hour spare at this rate. But move on to number 6. I've got Lennox Lewis against Hasim Rahman. This probably should be higher, but like I said, I've done mine. I've just done 10. I didn't particularly put them in any order. But he got obviously knocked out in was it the 5th round in the first fight?
Yes.
And then he took him out in the 4th in the second. Oh, no, sorry. He lost in the 4th in the first and knocked him out in the 5th in the second.
No, you were correct. The first one was a 5th.
Right,
The rematch
time.
was a 4th. Yes.
There you go. I crisscrossed it. But yeah, he got knocked out in South Africa, didn't he? It was a massive shock. But then Lewis put him to bed and absolutely just destroyed him in the rematch. And it was always going to happen because Hasim Rahman should never even been in there with him, to be truthful.
I my impersonation of Hasim Rahman when he got hit with that punch. Because
yeah.
there's
his whole face went like rubber, like a mask coming off.
One quick thing of this was higher on my list. Here in the States, there's a debate show. They had a cardboard of Hasim Rahman's face getting hit with that punch. That was on the ESPN sites here in the States. If I can find it, I'll show you too. You will crack up.
Yeah, if you get it, mate, take a picture and send it to me. I'd love to see that.
It's like he was vomiting out to the side or something. That's what it looked like.
Right, what we got here? Mr. Styles has just said Juan Manuel Marquez versus Pacquiao 4 fight. Yeah, that's on my list, even though it's not a revenge like second fight knockout. But I had to put it on there after losing 3. Oh, sorry, drawing 1, losing 2. You had to put it on there. He's also gone for Fury Wilder 2. Roberto Duran versus Sugar Ray. We've had that one. Muhammad Ali, anyone who defeated him. Yeah, that's true. Cotto Margarito second fight. After that horrible job with a Paris Plaster.
Maybe the best one for the Ali revenge was a victory over Spinks that made him the first ever 3-time heavyweight champion, because Ali was basically done at that point, and he basically went to the well and found a way to shock Leon Spinks in the rematch back in '78.
Yeah, I didn't even put Ali on my list. I didn't bother because I assumed you two would, so I didn't bother. Right,
I probably could have, Mr. Mark.
6 for you, sir.
Right, I was going to say, Ali Spinks, Serhan robbed it off me.
Like your one as well. No worries. Jabbit Boxing said Sugar Ray Robinson against Gene Fullmark.
Oh, yes. That's way back in the 50s. That's why
Robinson lost the first round. He got knocked out.
That's
and then
a
knocked out
great fight for Jabbit Boxing. Big up.
Big up
to
yourself,
great
Jabs.
Fight.
Big call that is, mate. It's another one I didn't even think about. I've watched all of Robinson's fights as well. What a fighter he was, by the way. Do you think he's probably the greatest of all time, like actual boxer?
Yes.
Sugar Ray Robinson.
Yes. Talk about do it all. He checks the boxes.
Yeah, like everyone says Muhammad Ali. I'd probably say Sugar Ray Robinson.
Muhammad Ali is
look at the body of work. You know what I mean?
Muhammad Ali's the greatest, but the pound for pound greatest is Sugar Ray Robinson. Period. End of story. Case closed. So, but back to my number 6. We talked about it. Roy Jones over Montel Griffin in their second fight. The synopsis for this one, that Roy Jones had a lot of motivation to basically just take Montel Griffin's head off. The first fight was a disqualification in some of the most bizarre circumstances where Montel Griffin takes a knee, the referee does nothing, Jones hits him and is somehow disqualified when the ref doesn't even do anything. 2 months later, he files an appeal with the International Olympic Committee after it was revealed that they basically cheated Jones out of the gold medal, which everyone knows the story there. That appeal was denied, pissed Roy Jones off, and with the disqualification, he takes it out on Montel Griffin. Fight was basically over the first 10 seconds when Jones threw the first left hook and sent Montel Griffin 6 feet across the ring.
Beautiful. Can't go wrong. Cabot has said he has got a few of them. Lomata and Lamata and
Jake LaMotta. Jake LaMotta is considered the toughest, probably hands down the toughest fighter with the greatest chin ever.
What was that movie called about Jake LaMotta?
The Raging Bull.
Raging Bull. That's it. I had a special edition, a videotape.
Robert De Niro.
Yeah, that's the one, mate. Fantastic film. Absolutely. I had that and Taxi Driver. I had 2, like a special edition case with both movies in. It was fantastic. I think I sold it to Blockbuster in the end for like 11 quid when they were shutting down. So it was a good day.
That was a
Cost me
long
a quid
time
from the
ago.
car boot, you know what I mean? Right, so we move on to number 5. Number 5, this is an old one from 1938. I went for Joe Louis when he KO'd Max Schmeling. And that was obviously back when it was Nazi Germany against the United States. He'd lost in 1936, obviously. It was a massive shock. And then Joe Louis absolutely battered him in New York City in front of a pro-American crowd against basically what they were classing as a Nazi German.
I have that as
A
my
lot of
number
people
one.
would have this as their number 1, to be
Yeah,
truthful. But
that's my number 1. But I will reveal more about this fight when that period comes.
yeah,
Because there's a lot of high level historical significance with that, because it set off probably the greatest run in boxing history.
yeah.
My number 5.
Okay, then.
Yeah. My number 5
So
was
keep that for when we get to your number 1 then, Serhan. So what's your number 5, mate?
You mentioned it earlier. Patterson over Ingmar Johansson.
Yeah.
For the
Ingmar was
first,
undefeated, tough
the
man.
first, a couple things with this one. The first fight, Patterson was knocked down 7 times. The second fight, Patterson just took the matters in his own hands and just beat the bejesus out of Johansson. Sort of had this, not as the significance of Lewis and Schmeling, but it was pretty close. For all the young historians out here, everybody knows Custom Model as Mike Tyson as Custom Model's project. Before Mike Tyson, he had Floyd Patterson. And Floyd Patterson, before Mike Tyson, Floyd Patterson was the youngest heavyweight champion ever. And when he won this title from Ingmar Johansson, he became the first ever heavyweight to regain the championship on this night.
I tell you what, I always used to use Floyd Patterson when I used to play Knockout Kings on the old PS1 back in the year 1995. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I used to always have Patterson. Everyone would go Ali, I'd always have Patterson. And I used to knock him out every time. They were the days, lads. They were the days.
One last thing. Ingmar Johansson was knocked out so cold, people thought he was dead because Patterson just laid a beating on him.
Yeah,
the rematch.
It was an absolute smash up. It was. We've got Jabit Boxing. I like that one, Jam's great shout. Raho come. Interesting fact, Schmeling became the wealthiest boxer ever after the war, as he owned a Coca-Cola franchise for Germany. I didn't know that. Thank you, Ra. And Jabit Boxing said, amen, Serhan, that he was for Ali twice as well, didn't he?
Yes.
Talking about Patterson, I assume. Floyd.
Yep. Yeah, Ali just schooled him both times.
Yeah, he was a tough man, mate. Like I say, my boy on Knockout Kings back on the PS1. Mr. Neutral, what was your number 5, mate?
My number 5 would be Marquez Pacquiao 4. I believe that Marquez was robbed in fight 3. He came out in fight 4 and he got his revenge in spectacular style. At 39, which was no mean feat. I know he had his problems before in his earlier career, but that for me was his best win, his best performance, and a decent revenge fight.
Definitely. He had to get that as well after the draw in the first fight and then 2 losses. He had to get it this time. It was his last chance.
I thought he was robbed in fight 3 somehow.
Didn't he go and knock him out again after as well, or am I just imagining that? Did he go and knock him out again was there a 4th and he knocked him out again?
No.
No, I'm just imagining that. I'm just imagining it. Or was it Morales he knocked out twice in a row?
It was Triple Morales. Yeah, he knocked him out twice in the second, third fight.
Morales, he knocked out twice in a row.
Back up Neutral's claim. I thought it was a 3-0-1 for Marquez in the rivalry. I thought the first fight was a draw. I thought the second fight maybe could have gone either way, but I gave it to Marquez. And as he said, the third fight Marquez I thought legitimately won. Before going into the 4th fight, Marquez basically said, "I'm going to push for the knockout," and boy did he get it. Manny Pacquiao still seeing stars today.
Right then, so we move on to number 4, and guess what mine is? It's Manuel Marquez against Pac-Man. So we've just covered that. So there's nothing really left to say on it. After the first, like we said, the first one ended in a draw, and then he lost 2, and then Pac-Man got the win in the end in the 4th. So a fantastic performance. What's your number 4, Serhan?
Let me add one thing to real quick before I go on number 4. After Julio Cesar Chavez's career declined, they were looking for a standout Mexican fighter with a standout Mexican win. When he knocked out Pacquiao, that was the biggest win for Mexico since Chavez knocked out Meldrick Taylor. That's how significant that was for that country. Because Morales and Barrera had their chances, couldn't capitalize quite like that. So my number 4 we're going to go a little deep in the history lesson here. We're going to go to a Mexican-Puerto Rican rivalry way back in the 80s. This was Jose Luis Ramirez knocking out Edwin Rosario in Rosario's backyard. The first fight, it was basically like the two-fight series, like a poor version of Leonard Duran at the time. First fight, Ramirez figured Rosario out, but the problem was Rosario built such a big lead that it was basically too little, too late. But the problem is both fights were in Puerto Rico. The second fight was fought under protest because they didn't want to go to Puerto Rico because they thought they were shafted due to a hometown decision the first time. The first 2 rounds, Jose Luis Ramirez is dropped by the hard-hitting Rosario 3 times in the first 3.5 minutes. Looked like he was on his way to get a stoppage win. Then out of nowhere, here comes a haymaker left, and Rosario basically fights in reverse. He's hurt all over the place, doesn't even try to fight back. And before the fight was stopped, Ramirez spins Rosario into the corner, beats him to a drum to where Rosario turns his back on him and basically quit.
Fair play. Sounds like a good fight, mate. I'll have to look that one up because, to be honest, I've never seen that fight, to be quite honest with you.
This was in 84.
Yeah, so I was only 1 year old.
For that year, it was a fight of it was Ring Magazine's fight of the year for 84.
Gabbit Boxing is saying Cotto against Antonio Margarito too. Yeah, I completely forgot about that one, to be honest. That should have been number 1, to be fair. But Mr. Neutral, what's your number 4, mate?
Let me think. I would probably have to give it to the Ingemar Johansson fight. For me, that was a significant fight at that time. Floyd Patterson, as Serhan quite rightly said, was the youngest champion, went on an incredible run after that. So the historical significance of me putting him at number 4 is because of how the consequences of such fights, what goes on, how good they are and what goes on. So Floyd Patterson, it wasn't until Sonny Liston, obviously, that he come into trouble, but, you know, that's Sonny Liston. So for that fight, that's my 4th favourite revenge fight of the century.
Lovely. Thank you, Mr. Neutral. So we're on to number 3. You've done your number 4, sir, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback on what Neutral said. I think you mentioned it when you mentioned this fight. Back then, there was a connection when it came to boxing, and it was in a political, cultural world sense back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. That's what the Lewis Schmeling and Johansson Patterson fights were back then, especially when you consider the countries involved and the connections, especially over in Germany. That you mentioned, Jam, with Max Schmeling, and of course that crap over there with the name Hitler.
It was basically classed as Nazi Germany against the USA because it was it was World War going on.
Correct.
Or just finished.
Yeah.
It was literally in New York City, the rematch in 38 after the one in 36, and it was literally everyone classed it as Nazi Germany versus the States. And Joe Louis put a beat down on Max Schmeling and absolutely terrorised him, and the crowd in New York went mental. They reckon there were 40,000 there, but people say there could have been as many as 100,000 rammed in there.
Yes.
Imagine being there back in 1938, mate. I would have loved it.
Right.
Right, I digress. So we move on to number 3. I've gone for Lennox Lewis against Oliver McCall. Obviously, he won. Lennox Lewis got the ref to stop the fight. Ref stops the fight in round 5. Oliver McCall had already stunned Lewis in the first fight. Have you guys seen that one? What was your thoughts on that?
I watched that fight.
McCall was a mental mess at that point.
It was one of the, apart from obviously the traumatic experiences of watching Michael Watson and Gerald McClellan.
Yeah, that was
this
terrible.
was up there as a very upsetting scene.
What was wrong with McCall? What was up with him?
Substance
McCall
abuse.
was he was a recovering he was in
substance abuse.
He was in recovery for cocaine addiction.
Oh shit!
But some had said he'd moved on from cocaine to others, and at that time he was suffering such mental pressure from Don King.
Yes,
who basically threatened him, his family, his financial future. Because Oliver McCall didn't want to fight. He's mentally wasn't there. He told his trainer and Don King before the fight, "I don't want to fight." He was threatened by Don King in the dressing room, as per his trainer's biography. And he went out there, and I think it was round 4. he just gave up. He just dropped his hands. And what's interesting is the fact that Lennox Lewis had 4 uninterrupted big power punches on Oliver McCall and couldn't put him down. Oliver McCall had never been down in his life and never been knocked out. For me, he had the greatest chin in history. And it's quite right that you put that fight up there, but it's for the wrong reasons for me.
Yeah, I didn't know about the substance abuse thing. I didn't even know that, Neutral. I remember
Yeah,
the fight. I remember like reading about it. I've watched the fight. I never knew that he was like addicted to cocaine. I did not know that.
For me, he's the epitome of what could have been in heavyweight boxing.
Yeah, he was stopped in
Such
round
a
5,
shame.
wasn't he? He was stopped in the 5th.
Yeah,
I think
such
it
a
was.
shame.
Yeah.
He just gave up. The referee, Mills Lane, has had enough and said, "Look, you're not defending yourself. You can't carry on."
Oh, what a
But
shame! What a shame!
my number 3 jams would be Antonio Barrera,
Yeah,
Morales 2, where
Marco
Barrera
Antonio
got his
Barrera, fantastic fighter.
he got his revenge by knockout. And at the press, it was a very, very heated, angry press conference between them. Punches were thrown. It was a very, very high grit, energy kind of hate for each other these two had. It all added to the attraction. It all added to the event on the night, and it was a fantastic atmosphere. The place went up in uproar when Pereira got his revenge. So for me, my favorite revenge fight, number 3, Pereira Morales 2.
Yeah, that's a good call, mate. I don't know where Serhan's disappeared to. I've just sent him a message to find out, but I
Technical
don't know where
problems
he's
in the
gone. So
USA.
yeah, that's it. He's probably got a bit of bad signal. It could be the weather. It could be anything. And so
Aye.
I'll
Or
move on to my
something I
number
said.
2. Yeah, we've already actually been through my number 2 because it was Sugar Ray Leonard when he retired in round 8, Roberto Duran. So the Hands of Stone. We've already been through this one after losing his undefeated record in the first fight. Just a
Right. Well,
classic fight, wasn't it?
yeah. Oh, brilliant fight. Absolutely brilliant. My number 2 is Lennox Lewis versus Razim Hammond.
Yeah,
After
that
the
was
shock,
amazing.
after the shock in South Africa, being in a film, Lennox Lewis, for me, didn't take the fight seriously enough, or wasn't organized seriously enough, took his eye off the ball. And Razim Hammond took full advantage and knocked him out. 6 months later, in the rematch, it was the other way around. Razim Hammond was playboying it around the USA and various countries. Didn't take the fight seriously, coming back
Thinking he was Johnny
into
Big
fight
Time, wasn't
2.
he?
Yeah. And then you seen that devastating knockout, which Serhan quite rightly said. The face of Hazin Rahman should be a meme by now.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is in
But
the States.
if you look at it properly, people would
Serhan's
say
showing us
that
now, neutral. He's showing us the face. He's showing us. Like, it was like a
No.
fist mate. Like, that's how his face ended up, like, literally all blown up
So
and staggered when Lewis caught him with an absolute beast of a shot.
yeah, not only was it one of my favorite 2 best knockout wins, revenge wins. He was my favorite fighter at the time, and I erupted. The whole crowd erupted when we were there because I was there in Wembley. So it was just a great knockout revenge. He got Razim where he wanted him. Hammond didn't. Hazim Rahman didn't train, didn't take the fight seriously, and he paid the cost. My number 2.
Who does that remind you of, though? Does that remind you of Andy Ruiz Jr. after he beat AJ?
Or how about Buster Douglas losing to Evander Holyfield after he beat Mike Tyson?
Yeah, it's like they win one big fight and they think they're done for life now. I've got the money now. I don't need to mess about. But they still have to train and work hard, and they don't. And that's what their downfall is. Right. But anyway, I digress once more. Serhan, we didn't get your number 3, did we? Or 2?
I'll get. I think you guys were on 2, right? I'll get both of them out of the way. You guys mentioned the first number 3 was a Lewis Rockman rematch. The thing with Lewis before the first, he got knocked out because he was so fixated with Mike Tyson. He lost focus. He later admitted it himself. There was they had a show here in the States where I guess they were supposed to have a show. I don't know where there was some name calling. They got to a wrestling scuffle that went through a table on an ESPN show that canceled the show. But in this rematch, Lennox Lewis was driven to get his title match. And as we said, the fight was over, and which basically ended Rockman's 5 minutes of fame. His 5 minutes of fame was done when he knocked Lewis out in South Africa.
Yeah, definitely. So what's your number 2 then, my brother?
No Moss, Leonard over Duran. This Neutral said it earlier.
That was my number 2 as well, Serhan. That was my number 2.
Basically, the first fight.
That's Leonard, when the guy skydived from the crowd, weren't it, and landed in the ring, and no. Leonard's trainer beat him up. Was that not the one?
No, that was Bo Holyfield.
Oh, was it? Oh,
yeah. Okay. Hell. But the synopsis of this fight, as Neutral said, the psychological game by Duran got to Leonard because he was hitting on his wife. Because of it, Leonard went there to fight a wrong fight to try and knock him out.
Killed him. Yeah, I killed him.
Yeah, which cost him the early rounds. He found Duran out after the fight, but it was too late because Duran had built such a big lead. But after the fight, Roberto Duran picked up bad partying habits, and the Ray Leonard can't push for an immediate rematch like real quick. Knowing this, Duran had a weight cut. Leonard basically gave him a boxing lesson, and of course, the 2 famous words, "No mas." With 40 years later, Roberto Duran, much as I love him, is still making excuses.
Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, it's no mas as in no more. The one where he walked out the ring in round 8, weren't it? He just walked out, walked off. That's the one.
Yes.
Right, Neutral, you've given your number 2, ain't you, mate? So we're on to number 1. So I'll go for my number 1. We've already had this one. It was Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder 2. And like I say, I didn't do them in any particular order. So I'm not saying this was the best, but I just had it as my number 1. We've already talked about it. If anyone's got anything to say on it, have you say. If not, move on to your Serhan.
Lewis over Schmeling. We mentioned it before. The win by Joe Lewis set off the longest reign in heavyweight championship history. 12 years, 25 successful title defenses. Hasn't been broken. Probably will never be broken. At a time, as we said, the cultural wars, the governmental aspect of it, it was such a giant deal to where everyone worldwide watched it. The last punch that knocked Max Schmeling down, Max Schmeling literally fell down like he was like a statue. His guard was up.
He literally went.
Yes. He fell down like this. His face was down like this. His ass was in the air. Face first, down, out for the count.
It was something out of a cartoon show. It was.
Yes. Yeah. Joe Lewis. You thought Leonard Lewis's hand was right. We're talking Leonard Lewis's right hand a lot. Joe Lewis's right hand in the 30s was every bit as big. He could put big men down with that right hand if he lands it perfectly. Joe Lewis was a monster. Probably the top 3 all-time pound for pound behind Ali and Ray Robinson.
I wouldn't disagree. Mr. Neutral, what was your number 1? What's your favourite revenge win of all time?
The wonderful story that is Max Schmeling versus Joe Lewis, 1939. 38, sorry.
38, yeah, with the rematch.
After the first fight, it was a shock to the world when Ingemar Johansson won the first fight. Joe Lewis was so upset. He got the heavyweight title back a year later, but he said, "I'm not happy until I get Max Schmeling back in the ring." 1938, it happens, right? The fight lasted, what was it, 2 minutes 45 seconds, something like that, right?
Yes.
In that time, Joe Lewis broke his back.
Holy fuck!
Max Schmeling absolutely got up after Joe Lewis broke his back. And then you've seen that knockdown, that final knockdown. And the story behind it, like Serhan quite rightly says, goes on to the longest defensive run in history. 25 fights, 12
25
years.
Successful defenses.
It'll never be beat. That'll never be beat at heavyweight.
It can't be beat. It cannot be beat. It's impossible to beat in this day and age.
What about, I know it's a wide curveball. What about Moses Torma if he wins a world title next year and defends it and wins everything till he's 38?
Politics will get, the political aspect of the sport will get away in it, as always.
If Moses Torma, though, wins a world title next year and beats Mike Tyson's record, he could then defend it for 18 years without losing. He could then beat that record.
That's a long time to stay hungry.
And a lot of
Yes.
fights to have in
The
them years as
difference,
well.
the
I'm
difference,
just
the
throwing it out there,
difference
mate.
in
I don't think it's going to happen. I'm just
yeah,
throwing it out
the
there just to be
difference
a
in
devil's
the
advocate. You know what I mean?
1950s was these guys had to fight to eat, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And they fought every
These
couple of
guys
months,
don't.
every month or two.
They
These
just fight for the
guys live in.
paper.
They
That's
sleep in
it.
silk sheets. You know, they get up to chefs and all kinds of fucking nonsense, right? Them guys back in the day had to eat. They were hungry. They fought 14 times a year. You know, some of them. It was an incredible era to be a boxer in.
It must have
And
been.
it's little wonder that obviously the health aspects were prevalent, you know, after the 1970s. Obviously, Ali was Parkinson's. Riddick Bowe has, you know, CTE. So you get, you'll never ever, they won't allow it to repeat that kind of a performance over 12 years.
I don't think it's possible. I don't
It's
think it's
just not
possible.
possible anymore.
Especially the amount of wins as well. Definitely don't. Right, we'll
I
leave
think
that
Joe
one there
Lewis
then.
has
So
got
that's
more
we've all got
knockouts
our number ones. Right, we've got
than Floyd
three
Mayweather's
and a
got
half
wins.
minutes left, lads, of the show. So we're going to go to next weekend's fights. There's not many, so it's not really going to take us that long. Rahokam has said Vladimir Klitschko came close. He got 22 defensives. That's true.
He did
But it wasn't as long. Was it 10 years he had? Was it 10 years?
No,
He
no,
was
10
12.
defensive
years.
supreme.
No. Klitschko. I thought it was
10
9.
years.
Oh, was it 9 years? 9 or 10? It was around that time,
Around there, yeah.
weren't it? Like 9 in a few months, you know, it was around that. Today's boxers should be more humble and respectful to the boxers that paved the way for them today. Yeah, that's damn
Absolutely.
straight. Damn
Agree.
straight.
100% agree.
But right, lads, we've got 3 minutes left, just under, so we're going to move on to the upcoming fights this weekend. I'll just read them out. Tell me what you think's going to happen. If you've got an opinion on it, you can have it. If not, just pass. Right,
We'll do it,
Cecilia Brackhouse is fighting for the WBC Super Welterweight title against Michaela Cornejo. Thoughts on it if you have one?
Breakhouse.
Brackhouse went
Backhouse.
neutral? Yeah, both
Backhouse.
good for Brackhouse. And then we've got the IBF Featherweight World title between Luis Alberto Lopez and America's Angela Leo.
Lopez.
Yeah, I'm
Lopez.
going Lopez as well. Yeah, same. And then we've got Sweet Poison, Gabby Fundora, who's fighting against Daniela Asenjo for the IBF Flyweight title. That's
Fundora.
Sebastian Fundora's little sister. Who do you
Fundora.
think wins that one?
Yes,
She's
it's hard.
13-0. She's
Fundora.
looking good.
It's hard to go against Fundora.
It is, mate. It is. And she's a great lady as well. Hopefully, we're going to have her on the channel soon. Her and Sebastian together, hopefully. So,
Very
a joint
good.
interview. We're in talks at the moment. So, let's hope we can get her across the line. And then last up is the big one. My friend of the channel, Serhan Boachuk. He's fighting big man puncher Virgil Ortiz Jr. This
Don't
one
ru-
we'll have a couple of minutes on.
This is going to be tougher than people think. Give me Ortiz, but that guy is not going to be a pushover.
Trust
I wouldn't
me,
be surprised if he
one
wins.
fight.
I wouldn't be surprised if he wins.
I tell you what, Serhan, people are sleeping on Serhan Boachuk. They say, oh, we got knocked out by Brandon Adams. You got to remember, the day he got knocked out by Brandon Adams, Russia had just invaded the Ukraine.
Yes.
He was worried about his family. His head wasn't right. He should have called out of the fight, but he didn't because he's a fucking warrior. He went in there and he fought.
We're going to find out how great
he got
Ortiz
knocked
is.
out in the 8th round.
We're about to find out how great Ortiz is.
Other than that,
can't
he's
be.
knocked out every man he's fought, bar Brian Mendoza, who he absolutely schooled on points after stepping aside for the Tim Tszyu fight to let Sebastian Fundora fight up there instead of Mendoza. So, trust me, Serhan Boachuk comes to fight. Virgil Ortiz, other than beating Mikey McKinson, hasn't beat any fucker. He's not the real deal. Yeah, he's got a punch on him, but he ain't no great boxer. I think Serhan Boachuk's going to knock this clown out. I really do.
Got a real chance.
I hope so. Anyway, I hope so. Mr. Neutral, what's your thoughts on that one, mate?
I obviously a great fight. Boachuk, we know what he can do. Virgil Ortiz, he's got everything going from it in boxing. Struggled at 147, but up to 154. Punishing display last time out. It's going to be a tough fight for both of them. Boachuk's going to bring the best out of Ortiz, I think.
Agree.
I think once he starts, if Boachuk starts touching him up, I can see the nasty side of Virgil coming out. I've seen it before, and it could be a hard night for Bochuk. But I just want a great fight on this one.
Are you doing the watch
I
along for it,
just,
Mr. Neutral, on iBoxing Hub?
if you want me to, son, I will.
I would love you to, mate. I would love you to.
Yeah, no problem
love you
at all.
to.
So I don't know at the minute who I'd go for. All I know is it's going to be a great fight. But for the Americans, obviously, I want Mexicans. I want Virgil Ortiz to come out
I get you. He
victorious.
actually is American, isn't he? So,
Yeah.
Right, lads. Thank you so much. Hawkan's joined us. A little bit too late, Hawkan, but thank you for joining. He said Fundora wins, late stoppage. Talking about Gabber. Hawkam said, if a fighter is in a weak division and can stay injury-free, 3 defensives a year for 8 years. Hawker said interim title for Brackhouse versus Corneo. Sorry, mate. Yeah, I said it again. Same thing happened the other day. Hawker had to pull me up on it then as well. It's an interim title between Brackhouse. I keep saying it. And Hawker's gone for Ortiz Jr. to win by TKO in round 10. Right, lads, that's the end of the Boxing Media Hub Boxing Hour. I appreciate both of you for joining me. My co-host Serhan will be back next week, and Mr. Neutral can be caught on Hard Talk or on iBoxing Hub many, many times. Just look out for him, follow him on his socials, follow at Serhan Dai, follow me at Jam's Boxing Chat. We appreciate every single one of y'all. Subscribe to the channel if you don't already. God bless one and all. Take care, and we'll see you soon.